This is the first quad axel landed in a figure skating competition.
Yes, we are!
That's a jump with 4.5 rotations in the air. When he landed it, Ilya Malinin launched into the figure skating stratosphere. Now, skaters are chasing something even more extreme, the quintuple jump, or the quint. That's 5 full rotations in midair. A few say that they're training quints, but no one's tried one in competition, yet. The quad already seems to defy physics, so is the quint even possible? Let's see what physics has to say, but first you need to know that there are 6 different kinds of basic jumps in figure skating. The toe loop, the salchow, the loop, the flip, the lutz, and the axel. To the untrained eye, they may all look pretty similar, but it's the combination of the edge of the blade they take off from and how they launch into the air that helps determine which jump is which. That means where the momentum is coming from is different for each one.
Of the 6 jumps, 3 of them use these edges to generate the power by which the skater gets up into the air. Those are the salchow, the loop, and the axel. So for a salchow, you use the pressure of the angle of the edge cutting into the ice, and then your right free foot to sort of like whisk yourself up into the air and then land on this back outside edge. 3 other jumps use this toe pick as a vaulting mechanism to get up into the air. Those are the flip, the lutz, and the toe loop.
The other factor is which direction the skater faces to begin the jump. All the jumps land backward, and almost all the jumps start backward too, except the axel. And so that means the axel also requires an extra half rotation so that the skater can change directions. That's one of the reasons that quad axel Malinin landed was so impressive.
The axel is the hardest for a couple of reasons. One being that it takes off forward, which means that you have to do an extra half rotation in the air. The other, actually just the psychological terror of jumping forward into the great unknown as opposed to sort of all the back takeoff jumps.
So if 4.5 rotations on a terrifying forward-facing jump has already been done, is 5 rotations possible too? No matter the type of jump, skaters are always up against a few things physics-wise.
You need air time, and you have to spin as fast as you can.
Elite men's skaters routinely get at least 20 inches off the ground and stay in the air for about 0.6 or 0.7 seconds. And on the most difficult jumps, they're spinning at over 300 revolutions per minute, or RPM. To squeeze in that extra 5th rotation, they either need to jump a little bit higher or spin a little bit faster, or a little bit of both.
There are other athletes that jump high or spin fast, and by translating the physics of those over to skating, it seems to me that a quint in competition should be feasible.
To pull it off, they need extreme angular momentum, or in other words, they need to rotate really fast.
Once you're off the ice, there's nothing they can do. You cannot add extra height, you cannot add extra velocity, you cannot add extra rotation rate. All of those things have to come at the launch.
To maximize angular momentum, there's a critical moment when the skater digs their skate into the ice and takes off. Then they pull all their limbs in tight, making it easier for their body to rotate. Physicists call this lowering the moment of inertia.
And that's the one thing skaters can change midair.
So you may see when they do their spins, they may start with their arms wide out and they spin slowly, and then as they bring their arms in, they speed up. By moving their mass in and out, that's how they change their moment of inertia. And as you lower your moment of inertia by bringing your arms in, you spin faster.
Making themselves as narrow as possible also reduces drag.
But there's a catch.
Now, the trade-off for that in skating is typically you put your arms out to help yourself balance, and as you pull your arms in, it's harder and harder to balance.
So could upping the rotation rate make a quint possible?
I don't know how much more we could get with that because the good skaters do seem to have very good air position already. If there was a way to get more angular momentum at the takeoff, just to get a little bit more speed on that rotation, and a little bit goes a long way on that speed. So currently skaters rotate at around 400 RPM, the elite skaters. If you could boost that up to 429, then with the same takeoff velocity, you would be pretty close to a quint.
About how much air would a skater have to get for a quint? Well, elite men routinely get at least 20 inches off the ground.
Some of them, like Malanin, can get even more, nearly 3 feet high.
So I did that calculation. It's on the order of a meter. You have to jump something like a meter in the air. And then you compare that to other athletes, like NBA athletes, volleyball athletes. Is that feasible? Yeah, it's absolutely feasible that a human can jump that high in the air and safely land it. So I think the quint is within human capabilities. You have to get someone who has the explosive power of Michael Jordan, somebody who has extraordinary skating abilities. But if all of those things come together, yeah, I think we could see a quint.
Hosoi took the average RPMs and height of elite skaters' quad jumps to make this graph of what a quint might take.
This is an average quad. Probably it's somewhere around here is where the quint will be.
But don't forget, a skater would also have to land one of these jumps, and that means their body will have to absorb a whole lot of force. Some research suggests that might be in the neighborhood of at least 5 Gs.
But some scientists placed sensors directly on skaters' bodies and used an accelerometer to measure the impact. They estimate that for just a triple axle, the number is as high as 15 Gs.
That is 15 times a skater's body weight, more than an astronaut feels on launch. And it's all coming down on a blade less than 5 millimeters wide.
But the reason that the skater doesn't really feel all those Gs instantaneously is because on landing, their muscles dissipate that energy. Their joints and muscles act like springs and dampers to help catch that impact before it damages the body.
Your muscle is actually tuning itself to act like a little bit of a spring so it can store energy and return it. Your muscle is also acting like a damper so that it can dissipate energy on things like a landing.
So if the quint is possible, what does that mean for the skaters and the sport?
Figure skating is both a sport and an art. For most of its history, those two aspects of the sport were weighted equally. Over the past 20 years, as the technical standard of jumping has gotten higher and higher, those base values of those elements has increased. The amount of value that the artistic side of the sport can achieve hasn't kept up with inflation, as it were. And then just from a physical safety standpoint, the more rotations you're attempting in the air, the greater the risk, but also of the longer term health consequences of the toll that this takes on the body, and especially on young, growing bodies.
Anytime you look at these extreme athletes, there's always going to be a risk of injury because you are really pushing yourself outside the range of normal operation. And if for some reason you don't manage to carry your horizontal velocity out, so you don't glide out of it, but instead you stop dead, again, that's an enormous amount of force for the body to absorb.
Maybe figure skating isn't just art and sport. It's also physics at its most extreme. Skaters are fighting gravity and rotating really, really fast, all on a knife's edge. So what happens when somebody does land a quint? Is the sextuple next?
Since I checked the quint and I was surprised by how within reach I think it is, I also checked the 6-time rotation. That one I'm not sure we're ever going to see, but the quint I think is within reach.